All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, when you've been an avid viewer of a certain craft or sport for a long period of time, or even a participant within a sport for a certain period of time, you know who's up next. You can just tell. In the same way that Muhammad Ali knew that Sugar Ray Leonard was up next, or Sugar Ray Leonard and Pernell Whitaker understood that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was up next, or Michael Jordan knew that Kobe Bryant was up next. It's very clear for those of us who pay attention to what's occurring within the NBA that LUKA Doncic is what is up next. And many of the more prominent players throughout the league understand where he's going. It's very clear that within the next 2 to 3 seasons, he's going to win at least one NBA regular season MVP award. I have very little doubt about that, especially if he's able to improve his defense. Well, Jeff Teague, the guard of the Minnesota Timberwolves, pretty much is going to say the same thing without expressly saying it, by himself issuing the declaration that in his view, LUKA Doncic is currently the best player in the NBA. Do I agree with that? No. I think that he's floating right outside of the top 5, but it's very clear to see that he's trending towards being the best player in the NBA, probably within the next 3 to 4 seasons. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
First up, LUKA Doncic and the Mavericks are hosting the Timberwolves tonight, and Jeff Teague had some very kind words to say about LUKA. Take a listen.
He's arguably probably the best player in the NBA right now.
Let me say this. When you get other players within the league, your peers, to start saying these things about you on camera, it's because they're talking about this amongst themselves off camera.
So, try to make him see a lot of bodies. I'm not really sure, man. It looks like no one can stop him right now. So,
the way that LUKA Doncic plays not only amplifies his own output, but it also assists his teammates. He's a player who's able to shoot 20 to 25 times a game, and you don't quite notice because all of the shots he takes appear to be good shots, and he's also passing and facilitating for his teammates so that they get open looks as well. It's very clear to me, though, that he is going to be an eyesore on defense. Porzingis is going to have to pick up the slack there because it's clear to me that Doncic is never going to have the foot speed to keep top-level players in front of him. But what I like when I watch him play defense is that at least he tries to play defense. He's not like a James Harden, Olay type defense from 5 years ago when James was playing that Matador D, just letting everybody drive right past him. But he is going to have to improve himself on the defensive end to where he's at least fair to Midland. Now, if you're Mark Cuban, you should already understand how to build around a player like him, because you can assume that at least for the next 8 to 9 years, he's going to be averaging high 20s in points, anywhere from 9 to 12 assists, and somewhere in between 8 to 10 rebounds. So you basically have a modern-day Oscar Robertson on your hands. Are you going to be able to build around him? Because if he's not able to win anything within the next 4 or 5 years, they're going to start to blame management. There's no doubt about it. Even with as young as he is, he's only 20 years old, I believe. But if he does not win a championship or threaten to win a championship within the next 4 to 5 years, they're going to start to blame the upper management. Mark Cuban is the owner, so you cannot get rid of him. But I could see some issues occurring with the coach, Carlisle, if they're not able to win the big one within the next 4 to 5 years with a player as dynamic as Doncic running their point guard / point forward position.
We can just figure out a scheme and try to slow him down.
Okay. Let me get this sentence out of him. Jeff Teague is saying LUKA Doncic is arguably, like saves it a little bit, the best player in the league.
Even Rachel Nichols understands the tad bit of absurdity in saying that LUKA Doncic is arguably the best player, because she says maybe the word arguably kind of saves it. In other words, she's saying it's pretty absurd, it's pretty silly what Jeff Teague stated. But the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because for Jeff Teague to say this on camera, behind the scenes, there are many NBA players that are saying to themselves, wow, this guy's out here averaging 30. He's averaging 30, 10, and 9. And he's in his second season in the NBA. He's 20 years old. He's basically putting up Russell Westbrook numbers from 2017, and he's shooting a far higher percentage. He's like a right-handed version of James Harden, except he does not have the antics, the flops, and all the other nonsense. So he's trending up towards that. And of course, the NBA wants to market the globalist aspect. So, they want to rush to give him an MVP award. He's going to get serious consideration this year. I just don't see anyone really messing with Giannis or maybe even an Anthony Davis unless either one of those players get injured or their teams fall off, which I don't see happening either way. Now, of course, Anthony Davis could get hurt, and Giannis, of course, could get hurt. Anybody can get hurt other than LeBron, seemingly. But for the most part, I don't see it for Luka this year. I think that it's probably going to be more next season where he'll get serious consideration for an MVP award. But to get to the question, no, you cannot say Luka is the best player in the NBA until he makes a deep playoff run and wins a regular season MVP. Then we can start putting his name in there. That's why I've always said these things about who I consider the superstars in the league. Still to this day, in my view, there are only 4 real superstars in the NBA, with Giannis maybe being able to get mentioned in that group as well, especially since 2 of those superstars are out injured, that being Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Giannis, I think you can kind of mention because he's so great on both offense and defense, so impactful, even though he lost a little bit of his shine with his performance in last year's Eastern Conference Finals, but I will put him in that class. James Harden is just outside of that class as well. He's won an MVP. He's also had multiple deep playoff runs, but he glaringly comes up small in big spots, so it's difficult to call him a superstar. Luka Doncic, the litmus test for him is going to be when he makes the playoffs. How does he fare going against a team that probably is going to play very good defense and is going to create a game plan just to stop him in the playoffs? Like Walt Frazier has always stated, the regular season is where you make your name, the playoffs is where you make your fame.
Hey, right now, BS or real talk?
No, I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you why.
It's arguable.
No, it's not arguable. If you want to say it's mentionable, if you're a Luka Doncic fan, then you can say it's mentionable. But I wouldn't say that it's arguable right now, but it depends on what your definition of a superstar player is. And in order for you to be the best player in the NBA, you have to pretty much be a superstar above other superstars. Right now, once again, in my view, the only 4 superstars in the NBA are LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, with Giannis, maybe Anthony Davis, as well as James Harden on the outside looking in. There are no other superstars in the league other than those 4 guys. Luka Doncic is having maybe the most impactful season of any player this year, the most shockingly impactful. Because I would even say that Giannis is having a more impactful season than Luka, and maybe Anthony Davis as well. But he's on the come up. That's what he is. Is it arguable that Luka is the best player in the league right now? No. No, it's not.
No. I can't give a guy without the body of
so
work.
therefore it's
He's arguably having the best year in the NBA.
Agreed.
When you
How
talk
much do you
about
wanna
the
parse
best
this sentence?
player, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, is Harden the best player? I mean, based on what he's done the last 4 years, I mean, he's having arguably the best year. But to say the best player, arguably, I mean, what's arguably?
What you did 4 years ago, does that matter right now?
Jeff Teague is arguably the best player in the league.
No, he's not. But I see what Paul's trying to get to. It's just that Paul's not a debater.
I mean, we
he's
can
not.
argue something. I mean, you can argue like 50 different.
Brian Whitehurst said, no, he's not. Actually, that's not arguable at all.
Now, what range is it that you say, how many players have to be in the argument for it to be an argument?
I'd say maybe 3 players are in the argument for best player in the NBA. Maybe 3. I say that those 3 players are LeBron, Kawhi, and a healthy Kevin Durant. I don't think that anybody with sense would put Anthony Davis in the quote-unquote argument for best player. I don't think that anybody with sense would put James Harden into that argument. Maybe best offensive player in the regular season, but best overall player, no. And that's why I cannot put Luka Doncic in that conversation. In my view, you have to be impactful on both offense and defense to be considered the best player in the NBA. Now, to be considered a superstar, you must have done great things in the regular season and the postseason. So not only can I not call Luka Doncic a superstar, I cannot call him the best player in the NBA. I cannot call him either one. What I can call him is a comet that is on the rise.
2, which in this case, he's
well,
like
you got LeBron Greek Freak, so he's in that
average,
argument.
But I mean, we're talking when you
Best player, not best statistic.
see where it says right now. We're not talking 4 years ago. Right now, he's averaging a 30 point.
He's having one of the best seasons, but we're talking about player.
I know, but right now, that's the season we're arguing about.
No, I have.
Are we arguing? Because that means it's arguable. Real talk. What are we doing?
A better argument for you, Brian Windhorst, would be who's having the best season in the NBA right now. Then you could throw Luka Doncic in there. Jeff Teague was not talking about who's having the best season. He was saying who he thinks might be the best player in the NBA. And in my view, what he really was saying is who has next. That's what Jeff Teague is saying. He's saying who has next. It's like 1984. You go up against Michael Jordan. Yes, you beat their team, but he goes out there and gets you 34 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, and he shoots 65% from the field. You say to yourself, okay, this guy has next. We beat their team, but you can tell he has next once he understands how to play the NBA game. That's pretty much what Jeff Teague is saying.
But just because you make it an argument doesn't mean
right. You gotta put your thing up. So
well, no. But look. I am
best
amazed,
player, maybe best
dazzled.
year.
I can't believe what Luka's doing. I'm so impressed with what Luka's doing. I have started the show talking about the amazing things Luka is doing. No one has been more just on Luka's season this year. And
let me say this: as I take what has transpired in this current NBA season into account, I have to say that as of right now, the only other team that I could see giving the Lakers a serious run in the playoffs, other than the Clippers, would be the Mavericks. Because I think that they have the 2 players that could kind of sort of offset LeBron and AD offensively. Luka Doncic could be able to approximate what a LeBron James's output could be in a series between those 2 teams. And I think that Porzingis may be able to bother Anthony Davis defensively enough that their numbers might be somewhere close. Like if AD averages 26 and 11, maybe Porzingis could give them 22 and 9, something along those lines he would have to be able to bring. And then it will come down to whose supporting cast plays better and which player ends up being the better playmaker in that series, Doncic or LeBron. But I could see that being a great series were they to match up in the playoffs. I don't like Denver and I don't like Utah. Coming into the season, I was far higher on them than I am right now. Utah seems to be a team that's in flux. They have some inadequate personnel in my view. I'm not quite sure how well Conley and Donovan Mitchell fit together. They're a very small backcourt. I think that they'd be better off maybe with Donovan Mitchell trying to learn how to play the point guard for Mike Conley and then bringing in a taller 3-and-D 2 guard, of course, like Klay Thompson, who pretty much is the quintessence of what you'd want out of a 3-and-D 2 guard. You're not going to be able to get him, but someone along that line to match up with Donovan Mitchell because he has a shaky jump shot. It comes and it goes. It's nowhere near as bad as a Russell Westbrook. But Donovan Mitchell goes through stretches where he just cannot make a jump shot. And if he cannot make his jump shots, they're not going to be any of the better teams in the Western Conference. So I'm kind of out on them right now. When you go to the Denver Nuggets, their issue is they have too many pretty good players, especially at the guard spot, and no great players. And then beyond that, Jokic just does not seem to take his conditioning very seriously at all. He's almost like the basketball version of Andy Ruiz.
On drafting him, the fact that you should have got number 1, then here at the jump or me. But here is my question to you, Brian. If you had to win a basketball game, Bill Simmons old, if the aliens were coming and said you have pick and pick sides,
no,
and
I
the
wouldn't,
whole
but that's
earth,
not.
Okay, so then that means, Brian Windhorst, what that means is that it is not an argument. Now, if your main contention is that the question is awkwardly worded, I think that, you might have kind of sort of a point. But if you really understand what the answer is supposed to be, you're not going to make that big a deal out of it. When Jeff Teague states that Luka is arguably the best player in the NBA right now, he's not talking about the player having the best season. He's saying within his mind, he's basically bringing you into the locker room and their conversations about who they think has next and who they've had the most difficult time trying to defend out there on the floor. They know that when Luka's out there, he can go left or right. He can shoot going left or right, even though he's better shooting when he goes left. He can finish with either hand. He can distribute, great passer, and really a phenomenal rebounder. He's a better rebounder than LeBron James is right now. So that's really what's going on. But that was a great scenario that was laid out by Rachel Nichols. If you want to find out who the best player in the league is, you can put forth that hypothetical question. If aliens were attacking and there was a basketball game that needed to be executed to save the fate of mankind, who would you want out there? That's why LeBron James is redoing Space Jam, because he wants to program the people into believing that he is that guy.
No, that is what the question is. Not who's having the best season. That's not what he said.
That's what I'm saying.
Who is the best player? If you had to put the fate of the universe in the hands of one man with a basketball, it could happen. You've seen the alien movies. Is Luka Doncic who
the question that was posed to me is: are he arguably the best player in the NBA right now?
LeBron?
Yes, he is arguably the best.
Kevin Durant. I mean, he's kind of out of the discussion right now. I'm just telling you, you wouldn't pick Luka.
All right, so
you wouldn't pick
who else is, how many guys you have that's arguably? Then
2 or 3.
No, I mean, you can say.
Right, but Luka's not the 4th best player in the NBA. I wouldn't go that far. But, maybe if you count the absence of KD and Steph, then you could throw him up there. But if we were to just go down the list, you have LeBron, you have Kawhi, you have AD, you have Giannis, you have Harden, you have Luka. So I'm not quite sure if Luka even cracks Brian Windhorst's top 3 if he were to truly sit back and think about it.
Oh, Embiid. I mean, of course, Greek Freak, Durant when he's healthy, Curry when he's healthy.
There's a difference between best season and best player, and I can expound on that with the MVP debate, but we won't do that. Let's talk.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. I do agree with the overall sentiment, at least as I perceived it from Jeff Teague, that Luka has next. And the NBA is going to have to try to figure out how to deal with him. When I say the NBA, I'm talking about these other teams. Because as he grows in prominence and the league starts to truly focus in on marketing him, you're going to have the referees that play a factor. They're going to be giving him a lot of calls, and things are going to be slanted into his direction. So there's going to be about a 2 or 3 year stretch, maybe even a 4-year stretch, where it's going to be very difficult for these teams to beat the Dallas Mavericks, especially if they equip him with the appropriate teammates that allow him to do what he does best. So we'll see. But anyway, peace.